Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, classmates. Today I am going to discuss to you the international and global security. So when we hear the word security, there are some questions pop out from our mind in the area of politics. First is, what is it that we think should be secured, or what is the referent object of security? Next is, what does it mean to be secured, and how is security achieved? So, security has always been central to the study of international politics. It has been the horrors of the First World War that inspired the academic discipline of international relations. So, during the Cold War, security studies concerned itself with how to keep the state secure from external military threats, particularly the threat of nuclear weapons. But after the Cold War, some studies on security have changed. What is security and how is it achieved? So, security is a contested subject, and when we say contested, it is something that being argued or questioned. So, security has no definitive definition. So, traditional security was very state centric, which security is provided by the states for states. It also focused on military power, which the typical studies were interstate war, territorial disputes, security dilemmas, and armed races and armed controls. Also, traditional security practices on the given examples such as deterrence, compellence, and alliance system, armed control, etc. So there are three questions, and I previously mentioned it after I start the discussion. What is it should be secured, or what should be the referent object of the security? What does it mean to be secure, and how is security achieved? So let's start first on the security for whom, or what should be the referent object of security. Okay, so traditional security studies is dominated by the theory of realism, and the referent object of security is state. So according to realism, given to the state exists in an anarchical realm, threats to security come from external threats, namely other states. So realism is a theory about the power which defined as power by material or military power. So if the state is threatened from the outside, it will increase its power. Next is the national security. The creation of the modern state system introduced the notion of national security. So, if the state is threatened externally and makes itself secure through the protecting its territory and its vital interests from attack. So, this is done by accumulating military power or weapons, and security in this interpretation is the ability to coerce. So, is the concept of national security still valid? So as you can see on this illustration I provided, you see military, tanks, armies, and weapons which serve to protect one state from the coercion of other state. But all of this, you can see a bird flying, a bird with bird flu. So we can conclude that there are some things that state can't secure itself from. Thus, we should start thinking beyond national security. It's also worth noting that bird flu or disease could be something considered as security threat. So there are questions we can ask about towards the national security. Can we protect state from external threats? Are some threats beyond the scope of state? Are threats against the state the only threats to the lives of individuals? Aren't national security practices endangering the life of individuals, such as human rights violations, civilian casualties, terrorism, and civil liberties? So next is the climate change. This is a good example considered as a security threat that perhaps questioned the national security. So first, we could ask, should we consider climate change a security threat, nationally or internationally? Can climate change be dealt with at national level? Who feels threatened by climate change and why? Are all states threatened by the climate change in the same way? So these are the questions we can ask towards the national security. So we can look at the security in different levels then. Well, first is the levels of analysis. Next is security of individual or human security. Then security of community, security of the nation, security of the regime, security of the state, security of the region, and global security. And again, how we think about security depends on the referent object or level of analysis. So next in the line is what does it mean to be secure? Again, how we answer this question depends on what we take to be our referent object security. So in terms of national or state security, security could be said to be involve the integrity of the borders, independent control of territory, economic wealth, military power, and preservation of vital interests. But then we could ask, what is it that human being secured? Though the state and individual within the state could have all of those things, they can still feel insecure. So, according to the United Nations 1994 United Nations Development Report, human security can be said to have a two main aspects. First is safety from chronic threats as hunger, disease, and repression. Second is the protection from sudden and hurtful disruptions in the pattern of daily life, whether in home, jobs, and communities. So below are the realms of the human security: the personal security, economic security, health security, political security, community security, food security, and environmental security. These are the threats on human security that make them feel insecure. So in Book of Buzan entitled People, States, and Fear sets about the broadening the subject of security to five categories. First is the military, then economic, next is environmental, then societal, and lastly the political security. So first is the military security, which is the realm of the additional security. It deals with the legal status of arms and ability to defend one state. Next is political security. Busan puts state, organization, regime, and ideology's referent object of security. Next is economic security. It could be the competition on resource and fiscal stability, fear of poverty and starvation. Next is societal security. It involves things as a threat of the shared language dying out, cultural traditions, identity, and value system. Lastly, the environmental security may involve natural disaster, health issues such as spread of disease, ecological issues such as climate change as a security threat. So Buzan didn't only stop at a traditional referent object, but he also broadens and added more. So let's move on theories in security. First, we have classical realism, which refers to the humans and the international system are brutal, and security is a pipe dream. So realism is an international relations theory from realist school of thought. Classical realist theory adopts as a pessimistic view of human nature and argues that humans are not inherently benevolent, but instead they are self-interested and act out of fear or aggression. Next is neorealism. Most concern is the protection of the state. Anarchic system does not allow for security. Structure drives insecurity, intentions of the states cannot be known, and state survival cannot be assured. And also the bipolar system is the most secure. So the strength of this theory is just simply straightforward, and there are historical evidence to help to support this theory. So there was a hard time back then that the neuralists cannot explain the peaceful change in the First World War. Following is the neoliberal or institutionalism. This theory says institutions can help states enhance security, institutions provide information, reduce transaction costs, makes commitments more credible, and facilitates reciprocity. It is an umbrella term for liberal research programs in the study of international relations that focus on the cooperative role of institutions. Additionally, this theory is responsible on explaining the principal view on the role of those international institutions ought to have in international relations among states, both economically and politically. Last on the list is the constructivist theory. On this theory, security is the product of social reality rather than just material reality. The security dilemma is the product of intersubjective understandings and security as politics. This theory is associated with the end of Cold War, an event that the traditional theories such as realism and liberalism failed to account for. So constructivism sees the world and what we can know about the world as socially constructed. It is important to understand that the social relationship between the United States and Britain and the United States and North Korea is perceived in a similar way by the states as this shared understanding or intersubjectivity forms the basis of their interactions. The nuclear weapon by themselves do not have any meaning unless we understand the social context. Further demonstrates that the constructivists go beyond the material reality by including the effect of ideas and beliefs on the world of politics. This also entails that reality is always under construction, which opens the prospect for change. So, in other words, meaning are not fixed but can change over time depending on the ideas and beliefs that actors hold. So I guess that's the end of my presentation. Thank you.